Good morning, everyone. This is Gopal, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Gopal Mathematica. And I welcome you all to one more wonderful session of my show called Knowledge and Learning. Today, again, it's a privilege for me to host one of the masters of physics of present time, who is a great researcher, educationist, and a fantastic human, and who have numerous contributions towards physics education and various science outreach programs in India. He is also the recipient of prestigious awards like Fellow of Andhra Pradesh Academy of Science and Fellow of Telangana Academy of Science, and he is also an visiting fellow of INSA, and he is also associate member of Abdul Salam International Center for Theoretical physics in Italy, and uh, he wrote many research papers which appeared in prestigious journals. Also, he authored several books that ignites the minds of young learners. And he's also the chief coordinator of the national level training program in physics known as Physics Training and Talent Search Program in association with the Infosys Science Foundation. So it's an honor to introduce you all to the honorary professor, Professor Sivakumar, uh, retired from School of Physics, Hyderabad Central University. To tell you more about Professor, uh, he has done his BSc in Physics in 1977 from the University of Madras, and later he done his MSc in Physics in 1979, and then he did his PhD in Physics from the Department of Theoretical Physics, University of Madras in 1987, and under the supervision of well-known physicist Professor P.M. Matthews, and he also done his postdoctoral fellow at IMSC in the year 1987 to 1989, and at SN Bose National Center for Science, Kolkata in 1989 to 1990. So it's really a privilege for me, sir, that uh, you are here with us in my YouTube channel to share your contribution, to share your views of physics learning in India. And thank you for accepting my sincere invitation. So I welcome you, sir. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gopal, for inviting me. I'm quite honored to be part of your YouTube channel. Thanks for the nice words you told about me in the introduction.
Thank you, Professor. It's a great privilege for me and my viewers that they will learn a lot from you by this interview. So, so sir, I have two questions that will be asked for the students' understanding, so that they will be uh, learning from your wonderful views and wonderful experiences. So, my first question that I would love to ask you, that is, at what age did you realize that you wanted to pursue science, and after you realized, what was your path like?
Yes, see, actually, I realized it not during my school days, but once I went into the pre-university, like the present day 11th and 12th, at that time I got exposed to some good teachers, and then I realized that I like broadly physics. What captivated me physics was, it was able to explain things whatever one sees in our day-to-day world, and that is part of the reason. I mean, I got interested in physics, and also that also led me to read books beyond of what is done in the curriculum and what are the prescribed textbooks. I used to go to different libraries yeah, in Chennai, and we used to take books which was all explains things in a much more deeper way, and also books like Scientific American articles. There were some books which were all collection of Scientific American articles, and that was also gave me a lot of impetus to pursue physics. It gave me, I mean, got me more excited in books because I mean, as a undergraduate students, we are not exposed to much of, not even undergraduate, it is even pre-university. Uh, then I realized that, I mean, that it gave me a lot of exposure to modern developments. I mean, not even modern developments, I would say, a little bit beyond what was known for that subject. I mean, one is at that time I realized physics is my interest, but only when I went to undergraduate classes and teaching and more, I read these kind of books, which I would say one is a Scientific American type articles, Scientific American articles. Second is books of popular science articles like George Gamow's book and I mean Eddington and this James Jeans. Like that, several authors used to have written books which was all the many modern developments, but then it was completely written in a non-technical way. That is, there won't be even a single mathematical equations, but still they will be able to convey the physics concepts and the excitement of all these things. Those kind of a thing is also got me mainly interested. Then I realized my interest was towards quantum mechanics. So then I gravitated towards those subjects. Then I realized that I am interested mostly in theoretical physics, and also, yeah, I mean that's the way I started gravitating towards the quantum theory and quantum mechanics and the allied subjects and all. So once I came to, I mean, BSc and MSc, it was very clear for me I will do only theoretical physics and even that only in subjects like quantum mechanics and so those places I felt I was much far ahead than the rest of my class, and I mean that way of understanding quantum mechanics was well suited my way of thinking and all. So it naturally, I mean, sort of, I it fitted well with my background and my the interest.
Very interesting, sir. It just shows how small things impact in someone's life. So, yes. So, my next question, we would love to hear from you that how you felt studying math and physics during your school days, as you know that there is a big difference. There is a big difference when you enter class 11 after your class 10 because as what we learn in class 10 is completely different and very basic. And as you enter class 11, it is a big gap that you cannot fill it in few months. Even in class 11, I have seen many students uh, that made them really worried how why they have taken science, even though they even that they should go for commerce later. And they
Hmm.
many of them shifted to commerce after that because when they come like they want to take science, but as they see physics, it's so tough in class 11. So they shift their subject, they go into other subjects. So what do you say? How it was for you when you came up in class 12, class 11?
Yeah. See, first, actually, I mean, the days of education in those period is completely different from what it is now. See, as you told me, I did in 74, 75 and all, I just graduated as I myself. Those time, there was only something called, till 10th, I mean, 11th, we had one exam. Then then what you would call 12th was a 1 year pre-university course. So in school days, we had, I mean, only a choice of doing chemistry I mean, what you call algebra. Only these two choices where nothing else was there. And for some reason, I don't remember because at that time everybody felt chemistry was a tough, and I took chemistry rather than mathematics, rather than algebra. Then actually, for some reason, I said, I mean, I think even then I did not want to go into chemistry or biology related thing because once you come to pre-university, we have to go physics, maths, and chemistry. Only these three things. Or with chemistry, it should be biology. I was not interested in biology and all. I mean, somehow it was thought it was completely memory based and all. So I went to the physics. But at the time, I had a very big handicap because they assume that, I mean, you know, the 11th and 12th, I mean, 10th and 11th of algebra, they assume that you should know. With that background only, they will start teaching. So 1 year I have to really, I mean, parallelly learn those subjects and also attend the regular classes. So that I really cope with that. I did that journey together. I was learning whatever with help of other teachers and some students. And then, I mean, I filled the gap myself like that. And then I realized that I didn't have any difficulty in fitting into sort of a math stream. And then, I mean, that is in math, physics stream, which required maths. All right. I mean, if I wanted to avoid, I mean, only other ways I should go to biology and chemistry and other subjects. And therefore, I got into physics. That was just purely a chance. It happened like that. It was more that I did not like biology before I wanted to go to physics. Then it went see, and at that time, the whatever we learned was also very little. The mathematics one studied and our school days was also very different. Only algebra and geometry was there. And then, you mean here, all the other subjects are all, I mean, came. So things at that time was a bit sort of different. Uh, Now coming to the present days, um, there is I mean, students, I mean, who find maths a bit difficult, right? But I mean, they have to. I mean, once you do physics, you cannot avoid getting into maths, right? Nowadays, even subjects like biology and all, or economics, all of them also require some amount of maths. So most likely, I mean, there should be some way that max training has to be redone to remove the phobia of max at these people at this age, which is, I mean, I think this is the kind of a thing which other MTTS and others must are doing a very great job. I think they should, I mean, that's the kind of a thing which one should try to do even at the 11th and 12th. I mean, that kind of a training to be done at a whatever you call as higher secondary school, so that this max phobia should go away. It is not so much because max by itself is a difficult subject. I feel that mostly it is because the way it is taught, the way it is done is a very difficult, different thing. It is, I mean, it is not a very creative process in which it is being taught. In my opinion, my limited understanding, in a conventional schools and higher secondary schools, which creates a lot of fear for students. And also sometimes maths is also related to memorizing timetable. I mean, with the multiplication tables and people that, and maybe that also adds to them. Somebody who can't remember, they think that they are not good enough. Okay. So, I mean, that's also from the student's point of view, they should also understand what is it they don't like in maths. One is it's a very abstract thing, but that the pedagogy can make it somewhat more related to the modern thing rather than presenting it in a completely abstract way without any reference to, I mean, other applications in subject. Maybe the concepts, mathematical concepts, when they introduce, they can really link it with how these concepts, say, applies in, say, biology, economics, I mean, differentiation, calculus, right? Maybe when they introduce this rather than treat this as a pure mathematics and rather than pure as a, proving theorems and all, somewhere these concepts, how it is also relevant in other areas which they would not have even thought of. I don't think 11th and 12th students may know that even I mean what they learn as functions or calculus or differentiation, these things has a I mean is used in biology, economics. It's called econometrics, the mathematical economics. Nowadays, almost all subjects is going to be using that kind of a concept. So I think the pedagogy of Max should be away from a pure mathematics style to introduce to the students as a it has an application oriented subjects. So that introduction or that what should I say awareness for the students can help to remove that phobia. I mean, they should say, "Oh, that's all it's all about." I thought it was something very big thing, right? That's a kind of a feeling a student should be sort of, brought about. See, for example, you take something like a mapping. I mean, we will students will all be thanking even physics students if we say wave function is a mapping from this to that and all. Right? But if you tell them, "Oh, what is it? It's a big. What's a big deal?" I mean, if you look at the ancient days when people started counting, what did they do? Right, there were a set of cows, right, and then they have a set of fingers. Then they looked at each cow and then said fingers like cow two, two, and three, four. Okay, there are five cows are there. But then what did they do? They did only a mapping. Right, there was a set of cows and I have a set of fingers. You made a one-to-one correspondence and you have mapped. So from the ancient days, people knew what is the mapping. If you try to introduce it to some normal level, right, many of the phobias will sort of go, oh, that's all it's all about. Then they will be able to take, when domain range and all of them, they'll be able to link it with, right? So you have to introduce it such a way that that phobia is sort of go. That I think many places the pedagogy style or books writing style should go from away from the pure mathematics. See, we should not think that a student coming from 11th and 12th, all those students are going to become a pure mathematicians, right? I mean, with that attitude, the subject should mean that should be there. I'm not saying it should not be there, right? But the introduction and all should be such that they should that fear has to go. Therefore, they should say it has a much broader thing. The line of thinking of this is this one, right? I mean, that small reorientation is what I think they should try to do. Then, if they try to do, I have a feeling that the students will be able to, appreciate maths because as I again emphasize, maths is a subject you cannot run away with in the present days. I mean, present day system, whichever be the science discipline you go. I mean, right, even commerce or even so many finance is all has a lot of quantitative finance, which all uses large amount of mathematics, statistics, applied statistics, actuarial sciences. Then there is subjects like financial mathematics, econometrics, right, and system biology. All of these subjects and all uses a reasonable amount of mathematics, not to the extent of pure mathematics, but recent items, they must know some basic ideas of calculus, right, statistics. Okay, I mean, these kind of operative things, they need to know that. Okay, that has to be introduced in such a way that it addresses the concerns of the large section of people, large section of students. Okay, I mean, that is something which one should, the mathematics educationists should also think about it.
So thank you so much for the wonderful way of insight that you have given for the problems and solutions of math learning and science learning. So it's really so much learning while listening to you. Thank you, Professor. So as you said that the trainings like MTTS and PTTS can be done in the school level as well, just after class 10, 11, 12. So I hope this come in upcoming years. So even I spoke to Professor Kumarisan about this. He also agreed that it is really required in school level as well after undergraduate level. And the same thing that is what you also insist that the things should be in very basic level, like in school days as well. So I wish that it will be done in few years, and if the people like you will be uh, supporting all those young comers who are trying to spread
Hmm.
this kind of awareness.
Mm.
I want to tell you that even I am on the way to uh, do something close that what you people are visioning that it should be done. And Professor Kumaresan said this that he will be uh, very happy to share the suggestion and guide young teachers from the school so that they will be doing well with the pedagogical aspects of math and physics. So I wish you also be
Yeah, I
there
will
with
be
us.
very happy.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I'll
thank
be
you
very
for
happy to be associated with you. You please
thank
tell us any
thank
way you can do, we will do it.
thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for the kind words and the support. So, next question that I would love to ask you is, could you tell us something about the exciting findings that uh, you have made big difference in society, or some moments that you find memorable in your career?
When if you are asking about my research career, actually, I mean, all certain, I should be quite modest that my contribution is very small compared with. I mean, there are a lot more eminent and more accomplished scientists are there. Therefore, maybe in that broader context, I can. I mean, I can only be. I mean, not just completely realistic to say that my contribution has been. I mean, I have done a contribution, but it should be seen in that broader perspective. When actually my understanding of your question is, you would, I mean, you want to know what are the important research contributions I have made. Is that what your question is?
If you want, once again,
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
please.
repeat the
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to know that is there something exciting findings that made big difference in society, or some moments that you find memorable in your field?
Memorable in my research career, right?
Yes, yes.
Exciting. See, to the society directly, I can only say the thing which I felt have made a big thing to society is initiating the PTTS program.
Yes.
I mean, that is something certainly I feel been very sort of proud about it. And I mean, that's something which has a direct impact to the society. And also introducing the new pedagogic style, which we have to conceive. I have to conceive myself. What are the ways of teaching yeah, subject in a different ways, and what are the difficulties, yeah, as a student I faced during my days. And then at that time I wished, oh, if things were different, right? Things, right? But then it took quite some time to understand that, but what is it which you replace it with? It is one thing to say that something is wrong, okay? And it's another thing to say that what is a right thing to replace it, right? So that is, it took some time. So only as the PTTS was developed, and we have to think of the new kinds of pedagogy and all. Then I started developing, or we are slowly trying to introduce, I mean, the different ways, and that is kind of a thing of I mean, doing a different way of doing teaching a concept or explaining a concept, or classroom discussion being a very make it a student centric teaching, where students are an active participants in the class rather than a passive listener and note taker. Right? Instead of that change or experimental change, where I mean, students learn to apply designed experiments rather than just be like, right? Those kind of things when we try to introduce it, I was a kind of a most, I mean, very exciting moments in this. From a research point of view, I mean, I've made some contributions. There were some problems which remained unsolved for a long time. I mean, which is to do with I mean, relativistic wave equations for particles with spin greater than one, especially for spin 3 by 2. I mean, that problem was, so that problem during my PhD thesis days, I mean, along with my other collaborators, we try to find a new way of solving that problem, which is, so that's actually is one work which I sort of feel proud about, which actually, I mean, incidentally, it is even referred to in one of the textbooks of field theory by a well-known scientist, Weinberg. And I mean, there are, I mean, other areas. I mean, I could branch out to other areas. I mean, physics like condensed some amount of condensed matter physics, applying the field theory techniques for other branches in physics like gravity, field theory, and to general relativity, and to some amount of strongly correlated electron systems, and so formal aspects of mathematical aspects of field theory. These are the kind of contributions which I have made in subjects, and all of them have been sort of published in journals. And certainly, I feel quite sort of been proud about these things. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing the memories. And sir, which physicists do you follow? And I mean to ask you that do you idolize some physicist from India or from any other country?
See, actually, I mean, in science, we should idolizing is also not a good thing, because after all, we want to go. I mean, science is always to go beyond what they did. But there are a lot of scientists which we feel who have. You feel it's a kind of a role model. One can really think of many scientists who are a kind of a role models, who have achievements and all. You look at it and it's a kind of inspiring for you to be, and that there are many scientists in India like Satyendra Bose, Subramaniam Chandrasekhar. In fact, I had an opportunity of actually seeing him in close quarters when he visited Madras University Theoretical Physics Department, when my supervisor P.M. Matthews invited him, and that was actually a very memorable experience. In fact, that should be an answer for your previous question. That it was, the way he was explaining physics and the way he was, so much engrossed, and that energy and excitement. It was, very much infectious, and that is something which is, I really regard Subramaniam Chandrasekhar as a kind of a role model, because whatever the kind of work he has done, the quantity of the work and the quality both is something which is, very, it's a point of, it's just a more than a human effort, There is so much he has learned, developed, and then he contributed, because with him I have learned, from his writings, I have learned quite a few things. I would really suggest people to read his articles, Truth and Beauty, by essays by Chandrasekhar. And there, if you, when he has a quite combination of creativity and scholarship, he always learns and also creates. That combination is a kind of a good thing for any researcher to imbibe. So, he was always teaching, and then every time he wanted to learn a subject, he started teaching. Then he learned. Then he made fundamental contributions in that areas. So, with that combination is something which I would look upon as a kind of a role model. And even doing science also, he has a very nice way of saying that. He says doing research is systematization of knowledge, like rather than just going behind the, when whatever others are doing and all. He just took a subject and he built everything from the scratch, and so he said, doing science and doing research it should be seen more as systematization of knowledge. If I can put him correctly, I'm not sure. And therefore, Subramaniam Chandrasekhar was really a kind of a remarkable person. And since I sort of seen him for about 10, 15 minutes, or maybe perhaps about half an hour or so, that was a wonderful experience. I can share it. What was your other question? Is that answer to it?
That is what I said. Which physicist do you follow? And uh,
Yeah, yeah, Chandrasekhar is one person. And I would also think that people like G. N. Ramachandran is also another person whom I have not seen, I have not heard. But I've heard my teachers telling, like PM Matthews and all, has yeah, I mean, they told me about him that he was though he was a X-ray crystallographer and all, he's teaching on mathematical science and mathematical physics, even general relativity and all, was kind of a spellbinding. And he is one person, who unfortunately missed a Nobel Prize. I mean, like somebody said, twice he missed a Nobel Prize. So he is a kind of a person who must should have been really a, I mean, role model. Though my knowledge is only through others, and of course, everyone knows that. That he has made a fundamental contribution, Ramachandran plot or something in X-ray crystallography. So he is also a person whom who was also a teacher and also a scientist. That's one person. I could also think of Amul Roy Chaudhary, who is in Presidency University, Presidency College. He was also a great teacher who was taught all the generations of scientists have benefited by his teaching. He teaches all the core courses. The way his students have explained to me, it's kind of it looks a very legendary thing. And he has also made a very fundamental contributions in physics, in gravitational physics. People like him. So these are the kind of role models who have combined a amount of teaching and also a scholarship. Right, that combination they have made a very wonderful thing. And so these are the people I would think they are sort of a great. I, yeah.
So it's very inspiring to hear that so many great teachers, so many great researchers, scientists have been the inspiration for your journey. So, one important question that I would ask you is, what do discovery mean for one physicist?
See, discovery is a see, for a physicist, one does not discover anything in one's lifetime. See, discovery only few discoveries are made. Only few people are are in the right place at the right time, and also have the right background and that intelligence and hard work and all to make discoveries. So, the one thing is I would think is that even to uh, appreciate a discovery is itself is a thing. You read a paper and you say that, oh, this paper looks interesting. So this seems to be a very important discovery, and this idea is a important one. See, in science, there are many small steps we all make, right? And then it's a kind of a collective effort by the whole group of scientists. Right? Then many people try and something fails. Okay, then the next person who succeeds knows that this is not the direction to go, then he goes to the different path. Okay, so many of the wrong, failure thing also contributes for the success, because one knows that this is not an approach to take. So people who made the final discoveries are also basing themselves on many of the other works of all these people. Therefore, the science, the whole society itself is going to making a contribution for eventually one big discovery is going to come. So here, by discovery, I'm trying to, it's an experimental discovery is one thing, and also a new theoretical concept, which is also equally important, because ultimately we have to understand experiments in terms of frameworks of theory. So there, what are the important theoretical concepts which pave way for this understanding the discovery? See, making a discovery is one. Then we have to understand the discovery so that we gain after gaining the full discovery. Then we will have a control over it. Then we can go for invention. Okay, so discovery, understanding, right? This after you understand only you can go for invention of based on this, like right, like semiconductors or transistors, they all came with right, which as invention came later. After you understand or learn to control this, that understand the theory is going to play an important role in that. Therefore, I would say that yeah, discovery experimental phenomenon is important. As much important is to to understand that discovery, why it is happening, why things are the way they are, why things are happening in that way. That is where there is the contributions will come. Then after you understand properly, then you will be able to, use it for your end to make inventions or make it relevant for applications to your day-to-day life, right? Many of the discoveries and things which are made now are all based on a discovery, a theoretical concept. Then after both of them, you can use it for our day-to-day things. Like you take many of these things like magnetic resonance imaging and all. Right? I mean, it was a quantum mechanical ideas was there. Right? Then people found it as applications in biology. Then it has come to a stage that MRIs can we are going to hospital and doing. Right? There is all these combinations of theory, concepts, and then have done applications. A PET scan, positron emission. Positron was first, it was an experimental discovery. Before that, theoretically, people predicted, Dirac predicted there should be a particle. Now, we know how to use. After you have complete control and understanding of it, you can use it for day-to-day life in society, like positron emission tomography and all. Therefore, the discovery by itself is not is important, but it should also be succeeded or preceded by a theoretical understanding. After you gain that understanding and control of that, it should lead to uh, an invention. That invention is when you use it for our day-to-day. I mean, like
It's like what we have studied in school days, like how atom was actually invented. First, Maharishi Kanada, he said what atoms, and later Dalton, and later other scientists have came up. And finally, Bohr's atom theory that we are studying right now. So this is the way uh, it was discovered. So one interesting question that I want to ask you, Professor, is that what is the difference between sciences and engineering sciences? I find this question interesting because a lot of people think that if you go into science, then you will end up doing these engineering kind of thing. But I'm wondering that if you could tell us about different branches that can be taken up by the students.
um, so, I mean, different branches in science one can do, or you are asking me to
Science,
compare engineering with science?
engineering with science, like, or even leaving engineering, what are the different branches that
Yeah,
one can pursue?
yeah. See, science is a as a see. I mean, the one image one has of doing a science is you do a BSc science or right, then follow it with MSc. Right? The conventional image is you going to become a teacher, right? Or you become a scientist like a C.V. Raman, or that's a kind of, and only these are the two kinds of image one has. But science itself has, I mean, one is has applications in other areas. That is one aspect. Second is the skills science teaches by learning science and maths, physics, and all. What the skill you learn that is has other applications. These are the two issues which one should keep in mind. So these the first one. What are the ways science can? If you take a physics, you do MSc physics, then I mean, at a, I mean, if you start at a BSc, then your opportunities will be doing with a scientist position. I mean, in research labs or scientific assistants and all. That's again continuing in science. Or you go for MSc or I mean, be a MSc, and also you, I mean, depends on the kind of expertise you have. You can, there are a lot of industries also which you can be, I mean, useful. There again depend the science is going to, if you go focus only on physics, it has certain range. Then if you go beyond physics, if you look at, I mean, each of them has its own needs. Yet somebody with the chemistry has industries and fertilizers or pharmaceutical companies will be needed. Biology, it has its own required people who need that biology knowledge. So actually, I would want to even say that about max also. People think that doing max is of not much use because, I mean, it's not going to put you into any place. there are also many subjects which require maths knowledge, and that also is I mean useful to in other places. Uh, so, in keeping with that, I would say that uh, going into science should not be seen as you are just going to end as a school teacher, or or go into science. Except for these two, it has no other avenues. That one should one can sort of give up that up, and so now there are more ideas like a liberal arts, science, and all are even slowly coming up, so that you get a much broader understanding and appreciation of science. And also nowadays there are several mega projects are all coming, which requires an interface of yeah, people doing science and also having some knowledge of computation, or also knowledge of softwaring and numerical methods, and with a base knowledge of physics. These combinations will be very useful, and I think nowadays there is a need for such kind of interfaces. And these subjects, like many subjects which were not part of the physics, is now sort of getting as a part of physics. An example is atmospheric science, or global about climate I mean, about this global warming and the climate science, geology, right? All of them are now becoming part of the science. This year, Nobel Prize was given for, for that kind of a work. Right? Therefore, now the science, physics, for example, is, I mean, should include all these things. Yeah, somebody with the knowledge of some physics, some software development, some numerical methods, somebody is good in some mathematics, he can really fit in with many of the Lego like project, which requires a combination of that. Yeah, and then our places, like I mean, where people need on the earth science as an atmospheric science. And for all these things, also their knowledge is sort of a will be sort of a required. One can sort of go on and branch into those things, and unfortunately, those subjects have not yet gone into the limelight. A good student may think that I mean it's not a very attractive subject for. So people can venture into that, and that kind of the domain of science has expanded to include some of these things which are traditionally kept outside the mainstream of physics. But, so that is one aspect in which yeah, science students can get into these things, and there people need all these things. Any major projects, mega projects, right, which goes for 25, 30 years of lifespan. Like an example I could think of is Lego. But, I mean, there, these people's expertise, knowledge, everything is sort of, is needed. They can get into that with that. Okay. Having said this, there's another part is, when you learn science, right, if the subject is taught sort of properly, you learn many the skills of thinking. If your physics is taught right, if they learn to do problem solving, if they learn to say, I mean, for a given situation, set up a problem, how to analytically solve, I mean, approach it, if those skills are developed, right, those skills will be useful to whichever discipline you try to go. So that's, I mean, that is going to be the very important thing also. Um, so one should, look upon doing science, learning sometimes these subjects as a vehicle for sharpen your brain into those things. Yeah, somebody can be, I mean, there are instances, there are people with a very good PhD in many of the fundamental sciences. They go to Wall Street, or go to financial market, because I mean, you see, they are given a high thing. See, because the skill is needed. That it is not done as a I mean, as a kind of dole. I mean, not as a kind of mystery thing. I mean, because they feel that they have a skill which is going to be of good to use, and they do things much faster than others. So it is that skill learning is also has to be emphasized when you learn these subjects. So in both these things, I think getting into this will be better. Having said that, I would say also notice one thing: many of the engineering graduates who go right after BTech, many of them don't continue in engineering. They go to management, MBA, and other things. They go right, and I mean, very few people really. make use of their domain knowledge which they got their degree, and then they become engineer as rest of their life. Right? That's a I would say a small fraction of the people alone do that. So I mean, those engineering craze is there, right? But if you see that number of people really remaining as engineers are not that much as number of people getting into engineering.
That's the right point that you said, Sir. We have noticed a lot of people like they have done engineering and later they are going into some other jobs like in banks and other places they are working, which is completely different from their domain what they have studied. Okay. So next question, I would ask you that you have been lecturing various places in India and abroad, and you have encountered a lot of students learning sciences. So, what do you think? How India stands at present in terms of science learning, physics learning, and math learning? What do you think? How we are doing at present?
See, in science learning, and I mean, I feel there is a lot more scope for India to uh, improve. I mean, there are two aspects. One is learning science and how you get evaluated, right? I mean, in exams and tests. So, in both these things, there is a large scope for yeah, India to improve. I feel that India science is done mostly as giving information. If you have some information, then people think that you know the subject. That is not what one should really understand. Then what I mean is, if you say that you know a subject, like say some superconductivity, then if people can reel out some critical temperature or several things, well, they say, oh yeah, he knows this. But that may not mean that a person understands the phenomenon. Physics is completely understanding the phenomenon, the understanding the concepts, how you apply it, right? And both conceptually and mathematically. How right? These are the things which has to be first emphasized when you are trained a student in a classroom. Second point is, having if taking the classroom training is what there can be one improvement. Second is how you evaluate students in a exam. Right? So there also there should be a scope. There is a scope for further refinement or improvement in it. So that the classroom, the exams, which is all mostly giving whether memory-based questions only. I'm not saying that memory questions are. It's not. Maybe some parts are important, but having primarily or only memory-based questions, or giving them some highly complicated, very artificially problem and make them these students do the same thing, and then doing that. That's also. There should be scope for testing what is it a student knows, then what is it a student does not know. So there should be, if you learn a subject, you should first test, yeah, a person, the evaluation scheme, I would feel that there is a further scope for it. If I would say that when in an exam, a person, fails means you should, there are some basic things you should fix. If a person fails, he does not know even these basic things. If he does that, then he fails. Right? Then a person, then there should be some kind of a simple basic things, then little bit difficult problems, then little bit to get a very high top score, then it should be a very open-ended questions can also be there. That variation will be there, then we will know that a person fails means he did not even know the most basic things which you expect somebody to know. So in evaluation, I feel that there is a large way when there's an improvement is there. In fact, it's a very interesting that when we go for when we conduct interviews, we ask them very basic questions. Even when we have sat in several interviews, we ask them the very elementary questions. But on the other hand, once you come to the exam, you ask them very complicated questions, and there they would have scored a first class or distinction and all. Okay, So the once they come, they could not even answer the basic things in that. So somewhere, what I mean, I feel that evaluation of the exams, I mean, right, there I feel that there is, I mean, lot more which can be done in that. That's my kind of impression. That's what I would very strongly feel in that. And I mean that I think that I mean, other countries are better. I've not seen undergraduate papers or anything in other countries, but I believe that this is something which I know here is not the right way, and that should be replaced in a better thing. Exactly in this particular way. I mean, they should. You know, so this thing should be done. There should be some very throwaway, little bit difficult and extremely difficult. This combination should come so that you will know that I mean, somebody gets a very high marks or really deserves to get that marks.
Wonderful answer that you gave. Thank you so much once again. So now coming to the very important part of the interview, that the main questions that I really wanted to ask you. That can you tell us what is PTTS and uh, what was the inspiration behind it, and why do you
Yeah.
thought of starting such kind of program?
Yeah. See, I mean, PTTS is is actually first, I mean, it is inspired from mathematics. So mathematics, there is a MTTS, Mathematics Training and Talent Search program, which Professor Kumaresan has been leading it and leading it for a long time. And independently, some of us, I mean, actually three of us, Professor myself, Professor Raghavan Rangarajan, who is now in Ahmedabad University, and also Professor S.V.M. Satyanarayana, who is in Pondicherry University. We three have been discussing privately with once when we were discussing with Professor Rajsekharan. He's a emeritus professor in the Institute of Mathematical Sciences. So when we were discussing and all, so some discussion, it just came, why not, I mean, we know this NTTS is running successful, why not we start a program for physics also. We just got the name PTTS, and then we said we will try to build that thing. So only the name was there, and we three said we'll, so that said you three take care of it and do that. So we have been involved and, for a long time. I mean, unlike NTTS, where they have a funding from the National Board of Higher Mathematics, in physics there is no equivalent board. For us, getting funds also was quite a difficult thing. We tried for several years. But anyhow, now it's sort of I mean, then from the 2015 onwards, we have been running a program. It's all every year we have to look for funds. And first time we got funds from some research institutes as a one-time grant, and we started at a small level. Then the last 4 5 years, I mean, we are fortunate to have interaction with Infosys Science Foundation, and they have been funding our program. I mean, we are partnering with them with that. They are fully sponsoring this program, and so this program is something. I mean, it's having taken the name from MTS, but physics is something completely different, right? And we have, I mean, so that we have organically and everywhere, I mean, we have sort of the independent entity, and we have, I mean, so tune our conceptualize this teaching everything tune for the physics program, right, which is different from max. And also we have to have our own an ideology and principles. So the basic the three principles which we in PTDS stands for. One is uh, what to teach. We don't want to teach very advanced subjects. Whatever they are expected. One is we have been doing only at a higher education, BSc and MSc. We have not yet come to the school level education. So we run training programs for these people. And recently, we have also initiated for teachers also, training program for teachers. And we are, I mean, what to teach is something we don't want to teach a very advanced concepts. Whatever they are expected to know at a BSc second year students, the same content, the same syllabus, right? That is what we teach. But what we differ is how to teach the subject. We want to teach completely. The classroom must be a very active learning. Students must be a lot of discussions and learn to ask questions, right? And learn to discuss, work with others. Tutorials, we form them into groups of 5 people with all from different states. Then we make them discuss the problem before actually do it, and then doing it. Uh, and we also have an experimental session where uh, they have to do hands-on. Maybe experimental come separately. That's completely a different thing. This is what we do on what to teach and whom to teach. Also, we don't generally take people from IITs, ISS, and all. We don't go by that absolute best in that. So we have, so we cater only to people who are, not in these elite institutions. That's the first thing. Second is in our class, in our students, about 50% are from the colleges which exist in rural areas. So when if there are 100 students, 50 will be the college exists not in the metro cities or in the major cities. So that is something which we are particular. And 50% will be women candidates. That's also we make a very conscious decision. Third is that we see that every state has a representation. So that is these are 3 things: whom to teach, what to teach, and how to teach. Our selection is also a bit unique. The way we select student is we students register for the program in our website. Once they fill in all the basic details, at the end they get one online question. We have a question bank in our system, and the system randomly selects one question to each student. And this student is asked to write down the answer and give. And this, I think, with the students are given the following instructions. One is they can refer any books, they can refer any notes, right? Except they should not discuss with others. They can take any, before the last date, if they submit, that is fine. The second thing is that we tell them we are not interested in their final answer being right or wrong. We only want to see that whether they are able to think, right? Whether they can go from specific examples to generalization, whether they know to go from analogies, they can build. So these kind of skills is what we try to check whether they know or not. Okay, and so these questions are also framed for a 5 marks. First 2 marks are will be we make it consciously to be a very throwaway questions. So the student must gain a confidence. That is one thing. And if student doesn't even answer that most throwaway questions, then we don't select them. So these questions are these students they write down the answer, they upload the answer. Then we manually we evaluate with 3 coordinators. We sit down and evaluate all these. Then we give marks. Then we select only those who are 60% and above. Only such students are selected. Then we select keeping these 3 things into mind. Every state gets some representation, generally proportional to the application. And overall, totally, about 50% are women and 50% are from a rural background. So these things which we are very, very cautious, very generally we try to do that. And even in the last few years and all, we found that women have from MSc to PhD people, not many women are going. So we thought from last 2 years, we have given an extra numerary seats for women. MSc students who have finished MSc but who had a break in career due to family reasons. We give about 5 seats for them and ask them also, but they should also apply and do all these things. But then we give them extra seats for them, and they also ask them to attend the program. And so one or two of them, they are. I mean, the first time we did, they are doing extremely well, and they put into some internship, and we got them internship. Then they are doing extremely well. So this selection is based on these I mean, this is the way we select the students in this program.
So it's really great to listen, and I would say that this needs a great courage and also uh, at the same time the dedication that you people have for teaching and supporting the students to grow with good knowledge of sciences. It's really commendable, and we all appreciate your efforts as a chief coordinator and all the supporting teachers that are there in the camp for PTTS. We wish all the best for the uh, upcoming success
You want to? I
and
mean, I would, yeah, like to add. I mean, this is a final question.
no. We have I have one last question.
Yeah, because about the PTTS, I mean, I have not, said, see, I mean, in our training program, we have, as I said, three points are there. One is we teach, there is a regular theory classes. Where the classroom will be completely interactive sessions, and students will be, on the toes. They will be asked questions. We ask questions. Sometimes, we encourage any visitor who also comes to intervene on behalf of the students to ask the lecturer, right? With the understanding that I know the answer, he also knows the answer, but students should learn what is a good questions to ask, right? So, that is the one part of learning we have. Second part is the tutorials we do, it is completely a peer learning. We divide them into groups and they have to see that each student is from a different state, but we are compelled to speak in English, and we give a problem and we don't give any solution. We just go around. We are only a facilitators for them, right? And we see that they are going in a right track discussions, and if they come and ask us for help, then we give them. Okay, but mostly they learn. That's a peer learning is there. That is the second part. Third is our experiment. So the experiment is we have a hands-on experiment. So what they do is for a 3 weeks program we have what they are given is just an one-line statement of the problem to be investigated. Okay, and what is not given is any lab equipments, instructions, what to do. Nothing is given to them. So the student's job is we divide into the group. Each group is given one experiment, but individually they have to do the experiments. So the group is given individually, they have to do the experiment, and they have to come to the board and tell us how to design that experiment. Usually, in most of our curriculum, BSc or MSc classes, students are given all the instructions are given. There is no scope for them to design and think of an experiment. Here, they have to come. They should say that this is what we try to do. With an important proviso, with a constraint, the cost of an experiment should not cross 300 rupees. That's with that condition, they have to come with a. They should tell us that to do this, I need these things. Right? Then then we'll tell them, okay, come, we'll go and buy. Right? Or tell us whatever you need, I'll buy and give it to you. So first week they design, they discuss and come to board and eat in front of the whole class. They tell us how they are going to approach the problem, how they will be trying to do. After the end of the first week, they started doing the experiment. If they are not in the right track, we guide them and bring them to the right track, and by prodding them, asking them questions, and make them come to the right direction. And sometimes we have a solutions for all this, but sometimes students come with a solution which is different from what we have thought of. We all encourage students to try that also. And one thing we tell them very clearly is that we are not interested in the final answer being correct or close to the known result, or right. Those things are not important. What is important is the skill of thinking, the skill of doing, the skill of learning the difficulties in implementing what you are doing it. That is more important. Even if the final answer is not good, that we don't tell them that you have to produce a result, right? They are not working under a pressure, right? That they have to get this required result and all, right? That so they whatever they do, that's fine. That's a thing. Then after the third week, they have to. Usually it also involves making measurements and all. So whatever they require, they have to make. If they want to make, say, they have a pulley, they have to really make a pulley by hand, right? If they want to say that they make a solenoid, they have to buy a wire and they have to take something and they have to wind and they have to do that. Then only with that they have to do that experiment. Then on the last day, they have to make a presentation of the experiment. So usually what we do is that we invite some of the most eminent scientists. I mean, generally, I mean, it is just that we choose, I mean, not that some, I mean, some anyone who is an Infosys award winner or some, so that we thought we will choose them. And of course, they are also generally the most eminent scientists of the country. So they have come, and these students, they make a presentation in front of them, and we tell them to ask any questions and see that they learn to face scientists. So then they make this presentation. So this is the way this experimental part is done. We feel that many experiments are way it is done in a conventionally everywhere. It's a kind of a cookbook recipes. So students don't have much scope to think of designing an experiment part. They have very less experience in it. So we feel that that should be sort of a corrected. So in this program, we try to see that they learn to design, they learn to think, and they learn to combine the physics theory concept and experiment. They learn to connect the two. Right? These are the way we try to do that. So this experimental part then goes in this way. Um, so this and uh, then we get some one or two people to give some general lectures on the general developments in physics. And the last few years, we even got few students get an internship to some places we have organized, arranged. And so the 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 experience many things students give and feedback is very. In fact, we tell them our goal is not to just teach physics only, right? What we aim to do is they should learn to learn. That is the basic thing. If they learn how to learn a subject, then they will sort of pick up fast way of doing that. That skill is what we try to imbibe with the student. So I mean, and maybe, and most important thing is that we don't stop our interaction with the students. We maintain a contact with every student. I mean, all these years, we have a WhatsApp group of every batch, and then there we discuss students. Any student can ask some doubts. I understand. I don't understand how we do it. That we keep regularly. I mean, teachers and resource persons are part of the group. We interact with them, and added to that, Infosys Science Foundation has really one thing has they are quite generous in giving funds, and they are giving complete freedom, with something which I would very and but they also taught us certain thing how to evaluate your programs. I mean, you know, in what I had to do at the end of the program is I have to keep track of every student from the since inception. From 2015 is my first batch. I have to keep from 15. When we have an Excel sheet of every year, every student, their phone number to email ID, to where they were when they were doing MSc, when we attended the program, where they are now, and what was the feedback of that program at that time. Right, everything I have to keep updating year by year, right, and I am maintaining that, and that I have to share with them. And they also want to have a short term, a mid term review of the student program. So as a short term, they have suggested that I conduct pre and a post PTTS questions, right? Which is basically we ask them some question on the domain of subject. It's a prerequisite of what they are supposed to attend, and something based on what was taught. And then I have to give questions and evaluate and give marks. And these marks has to be individual marks of these students has to be shared with them. And this progress is also they evaluate when they keep funding uh, every year. They've been seeing that progress, and based on it, they've been doing the funding for the next year. It's not an assured funding every year. I mean, right? I have to make a presentation. I mean, I have to present the results. Then, if they are satisfied, then they give. I mean, so like that, it has been sort of going. And we also see that how many of the students from BSc have gone for MSc, how many from MSc have gone for PhD, right? That percentage is also something which I have to keep telling, right? And we so that's a I mean, so that's a kind of a thing which we have to keep track of every student who's been following the career path of all the students is also something which we keep doing, which we have to keep updating, and so that record is also there. And some students we lose track of. We tell them this many students we have lost track of, but some students are how many are continuing research. Some people who have left physics, few some people, right? Some people are still preparing. All this information data I have to give right. I provide them the histogram, all these details, and that is also something. So they have taught us to sort of we give a self evaluation, right? So that's something which we plan to sort of do that. And students also give us marks. In that in the every year they give us marks for conceptual understanding out of five, how much they rate us. For experimental skill improvement, how much they rate us. How much for problem solving skill, right? Out of five, how much they rate us is also sort of given to them. So this is also something which and these things are all on sent to them, and all our pre and post PTTS questions, right, we have to share with the Infosys Science Foundation before we send the program, before we start the program. And they generally said in principle they can send it to evaluate others, to anybody else they want. So some of the eminent scientists in India, like Raja Nityananda, Professor Raja Nityananda, I've seen they have gone through these questions, and they so so in that sense there is a quality check on this of what we are doing it also by that. So so those kind of a thing is also this sort of sort of a, helping us even for us to judge ourselves. And instead of just going by anecdotal information, or some student is saying good, some student, right? Instead of that, we try to understand ourselves, and we try to see what are the course corrections we can make based on these evaluations. So this is also being done in a very serious way.
Thanks, Professor Sivakumar, for bringing such kind of program for students. And it's really inspiring to listen to you that the way you have started and the way you are carrying this program. And I wish that a lot of funding agencies uh, help help your program for to grow and to help a lot of students in India and make their lives in sciences. In fact, they will get a lot of interest the way you all are teaching in this program. And thank you so much for doing such kind of things, like what MTTS is doing. At the same time, the PTTS is doing very well. And I wish all the best for your programs. Even though I'm very small to say this, but still, as a learner, I would say that it's a very good program, and a lot of students will be benefited after doing training in this kind of program under your supervision, and a lot of other teachers those who are supporting this program. And one final question that I have for you is, if someone wants to become scientist, so what do they do, and what should they know, and what advice would you give to the students who just started learning at school level?
The first thing is I would say is that they should understand science as a in a broader sense of you know uh, whatever things which are happening. They are trying to understand science with the basic principles you try to understand. Therefore, they should learn to see science in everything they see in our day-to-day life. Right? That is one thing. The science should not, which is not in a lab only or read textbooks only. Our science is not only in understanding the black holes or something of that things only. First thing is they should see that science is something you try to understand with why things are the way they are. Right? That's a kind of thing. So that is the first thing they should try to. see science. And second thing is, see nowadays, I mean, see which branch of science they go to an extent depends on your mental skill and capabilities, right? Yeah, kind of a thinking process involves to become a pure mathematics is different from the kind of a mental faculty required to be a biologist, to be a chemist. Each of them must slightly different. So you have to find what is it which your innate skill, right? Your inborn skill you have, which takes you there. That after some time you would be able to see that where you naturally sort of gravitate, or by some time which you don't like doing in one, whereas you like doing something else, then you try to do, right? That is a second thing of which direction to go into. Second, third is, if you learn a subject, you also, somewhere now there is a lot of praise for going for internship and writing papers and getting a publication at a very young age. Okay, that is actually, it's not a bad thing to get into research at a young age. Doing that, it's not by itself is a wrong thing, but it should not become an end to itself, right? You should try to understanding subject and learning the basics will be better. Then you getting into that will be better, so that you learn all the basics of the field you are doing it. You should, what I am trying to say is that you should see that whatever you are, the understanding and depth of the subject is very important. At a later stage, if you want to have to do a fundamental contribution in science, people of that caliber, they understand science, the discipline, and that physics to a great depth, right? That depth of understanding will come, right? You should inculcate even at this age of how to understand whatever you understand with a great depth. So you should, at the at the cost of writing wanting to write papers, you should not lose your focus of understanding the subject, right? So there should be a balance, correct balance. You should try to sort of maintain between them. And another thing is, if you get to learn a subject, right? Even if you think at that moment it is not relevant for you, right? But and you get an opportunity to learn a subject, you learn the subject. Right? Somebody says he's a very good in subject, he's going to teach a course, but that subject is right now is not my field of interest. It doesn't matter. You try, because at some stage later, all of them will become very useful. Nowadays, the subjects are so much developing. Boundaries between the subjects, boundaries between the sub-subjects, boundaries between the sub-sub-subjects, they are all breaking. Okay, so nowadays one can't afford to just be doing only on a very small thing and making continuing for the rest of the life. Therefore, it's better if you get a chance to learn, you try to learn a subject. Okay? And one final thing I would say is that if you learn and understand the subject, you see that you are satisfied with that understanding. You don't have to try to convince somebody else. You try to your own self. Yes, I am satisfied with the explanation. I have understood. I am satisfied with it. That self thing is the most important. It's not so much to write something to write an examiner or to answer the interview question or to answer an that should not be the way to understand. When you understand something, you be honest to yourself and say that yes, I have understood. This is to my satisfaction. I understand this. Okay. If you don't understand like that, you keep it aside. It will come back at a later stage. Your mind will be working. Your subconscious mind will be working. Some stage it is going to come. Okay. So that is one very important advice I would give. Be honest to yourself in understanding. When you make a contribution, the science ethics is very important, right? When you take a reference, you give a proper acknowledgement to it. When somebody suggested that idea, and in some discussion, you try to give acknowledge to that, right? So right, that ethics is also, sort of a very scientific ethics is also very important. Okay, and everywhere be honest to yourself. And of course, nowadays science it has to be very competitive, and you have to right. Go with the flow. Do that, but right, but don't lose the essence and the spirit and the heart of doing science, which is to genuinely to understand what things with whatever is happening. Right? When you are going for a smaller thing, don't miss the understanding of a much global picture of these things. Right? and like, always try to understand with a great depth. Right? That will make you do a very fundamental, important contribution will come. And if you have a superficial understanding, you will only do superficial work. I mean, at your greater later part of life. If you have a deeper understanding, and then people will be able to see that this guy understands, and that will take you to another thing. Okay, so that is one advice I will give.
So thank you so much for the valuable suggestion, Professor Sivakumar. And I know that these suggestions will make a lot of difference for the students and all the teachers who are out there in schools and colleges who are listening to this video. And I wish that a lot of students should take up science and go the way you all are doing and learn learn the essence of science and make India proud. And thanks for being with us. And it's been really amazing. And I thank you so much that you accepted my sincere invitation and allowed me to take this wonderful interview, like an interactive session, and more like the suggestions that you made. And I really appreciate, and I wish you be in good health and guide all of us and make the students. Thank you so much, Professor Kumar, for being in my chat. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I
And
enjoyed very much being with you. I enjoyed all the questions you asked, right? And I hope it benefits at least some of you.
and one last request, Professor. Like as I've already told you about the help that we need to improve the school curriculum, school understanding. I wish you will be there with us in future.
Yeah, yeah. You tell me what you need, right? Whether
Yes.
you want me to come to Kharagpur and come and meet and talk to you, I wouldn't mind coming and doing that, right? And
Thank
anything can be done in online also, I can do it,
you.
right? So whatever you want me to in some way, I would certainly be sort of assistant to you, right?
Okay.
You just tell me what you want me to do. I'm
Thank you
available.
so much for being so kind to us. And a lot of teachers who are in Kharagpur, they will be very happy if you meet them, whether in online or offline, so that they
Yeah,
will
yeah,
be
yeah.
guided.
If I
They
get
will be guided.
if I come that side to Kharagpur, I will try to come. I mean, if you can, if I
Sure,
get
sure.
something, then I will certainly come. I can come physically also or
Sure.
online also. We can meet, right?
Thank you.
So I'm available anything and for any time.
Thank you. It will be a blessing if it happens in some days. Thank you so much, Professor Shivakumar. We'll see you in some other
Yeah,
day.
sure,
Thank you so
sure.
much.
I look forward to seeing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.